For ages, the tradition has been the same. The world's cardinals receive a message that says the Pope has died, come at once. The Pope didn't die this time, he simply stepped down, but the message to the cardinals has been the same, and soon they'll begin the conclave to select a successor. Cardinal Adam Maida is too old to vote, but certainly not too old to be heard, and he's in Rome right now. Before he left, he sat down with me to talk about the challenges facing the Vatican with Benedict stepping aside.
Obviously, it's brand new, right? 600 years. Yeah. But nonetheless, I think it made the best judgment in the context of the world today, his experience, and his own sense of well-being.
It was a stunner when Pope Benedict XVI announced that he was retiring. Retiring? It's not really a verb we use with popes. For the last 600 years, and frankly most years before that, popes have died in office. Cardinal Maida knows Pope Benedict well and knows he did what he felt was best for the church.
We've had reports in Rome, of course, that all this happened as this sordid investigation was handed to him about all of this activity in the Curia. Do you buy that?
No, not at all. Problems come over your desk every day, you know, they come flying at you. And I think it's just the whole, everything coming together, he made the decision. One thing didn't trigger this.
One thing may not have triggered it, but this one thing, the resignation, has triggered many others. Some fear that Benedict's decision takes some of the divine mystique out of the papacy, that if you can just retire from it, then it must be merely a job rather than a heavenly guided ordination of the Vicar of Christ. But also, as the College of Cardinals convenes, they know they must find a guiding light to bring the church out of a dark and, to many, sinful era.
Church has a human side to it, and even the Lord, when he picked 12 of his best friends, one of them walked away and betrayed him. I mean, that was pretty gruesome too, wasn't it? And so this has happened, and as we read the scriptures, we've seen these human interactions between religious people and whatnot, but ultimately with the message that God gives us of loving one another, forgiving one another, being at peace with one another.
So, who to now create that peace in the church? Cardinal Maida is one of 90 cardinals too old to vote in the conclave, but much gets hashed out before the conclave begins in the general congregations, the more informal gatherings of all of the cardinals.
And then there are opportunities for individual conversations and groups, and it gets sifted out. It's just like there are an awful lot of ideas, but then ultimately every cardinal, having heard all of these possibilities, makes his choice. Yeah, I think it might be time for somebody from Africa or somebody from Asia or whatever.
But how much diversity of thought is there? More than half of the voting cardinals were appointed by Pope Benedict, the rest by John Paul II. American Catholics in particular who hope for some big changes in the church. Is that even possible?
Things will be different than they have been. Now, whether you'll call that a revolution or an evolution, I think those are two different words, right, too. And there might be what we call just an accommodation to new realities.
Evolution has been the more standard practice for the church, but as they deal with everything from the sexual abuse scandals to priest shortages, when the white smoke appears from the papal chimney, the new pope won't have to find challenges. They'll be waiting for him. And I'll be there to bring you this extraordinary occasion. I hope you'll be with us all week for my coverage from the Vatican in Rome. Devin Skillion, Local 4. Well, Carmen and Steve, what a night here in Rome as the conclave ends after just 2 days, after 5 votes. And for a church that traces its lineage all the way back to St. Peter, through all of those centuries, it's not exactly easy to find firsts, and yet they found a way to plow some new ground tonight. The national flags of the presumed candidates for the papacy flew all over St. Peter's, and they flapped wildly when white smoke billowed from the telltale chimney. But when the Argentine appeared as the new pope, it seemed clear that the national flags fly under the flag of the Catholic Church. And with the kind of grand theater that only the Vatican can provide, a friendly delirium greeted the first ever pope from Latin America, all the more fitting that he would carve his own path with his chosen name, Francis I.
He will have the grace to be a shepherd.
With such little advance notice of the change at the top of the church, many of those who filled the piazza just took a vacation and landed in history, like the discos of Saline, Michigan. But you don't get to see the Sistine Chapel because I understand it's occupied.
No, we were a
So
little
busy.
disappointed, but rather see this. This is more of a historical moment for sure.
Cornerstone Schools founder Clark Durant just happened to pick this week to celebrate his 40th anniversary with his wife Susan.
Selection of the name Francis, very powerful. First Jesuit pope, and I think this is going to usher in a very exciting time for the church.
And is there any way of understanding what this means to Latin America? Such a cornerstone of Catholicism now suddenly raised to the roof.
When I heard it was from Latin America, Argentina, tears come from my eyes. I mean, this is the only thing. I mean, it is so lucky to be here.
So emotional for so many people in so many different ways here tonight. All right, so the schedule now. We will hear the first words from the Pope to the media coming up on Saturday, his first papal news conference. The installation is scheduled for Tuesday of next week, but important to note that when he accepted the Cardinal's appointment as Pope, he is officially the Vicar of Christ tonight. From the Vatican, Devin Skillion, Local 4. It is the world's smallest country. In fact, at 1/5 of 1 square mile, you can walk it in no time. And yet, the world's smallest country contains the world's largest church, St. Peter's Basilica, its dome towering above Rome, and its splendid square a mathematical marvel that is one of the world's truly great public spaces. And all of that splendor was designed and built for moments like this. The bones of St. Peter are believed to be beneath all of this marble and stone. And with more than 1 billion Catholics in the world, the search for his 266th spiritual heir does draw a crowd. And those who work here, like Carolina Ray of Bloomfield Hills, plan their days around the smoke signals.
This is the Catholic Super Bowl, and I want to be here for every minute of it.
It is odd that in this era of texting and Twitter, here we all stood staring through the rain at a small copper chimney. But it's hard to imagine an email blast generating this kind of energy. Beneath flags from all over the world, the Catholic family, so often torn apart and separated by doctrine and disagreement, was reminded of the tie that binds. So you stand without much complaint, and you wait and wait while you wonder at what is happening inside.
I can tell you, it's a strange feeling, especially having been in a conclave before.
Here's a man who knows. You'd have to believe Cardinal Adam Maida only feels more qualified 8 years after having voted in the last conclave. But only cardinals under the age of 80 are allowed to vote. He knows of the quiet contemplation in the Sistine Chapel and the reality that it takes a special cardinal to even want the papacy draped across his shoulders.
No matter to whom it happens, there's a surprise. I think none of us feel like we're worthy of that. In fact, we in many ways fear the work because it's almost beyond human abilities to address the challenges of the day.
Oh, and there are plenty of those. The church is still pockmarked by deep wounds caused by the sex scandals in the priesthood, the reports of a Roman curia that is out of control, and a Vatican bank that has been tied to money laundering and gangsters and yet has long resisted closer inspection. Add to that shortages of priests, declining Catholic allegiance in key parts of the world, and you wonder, can one man come in and change it? And can it be a 76-year-old pope who has seemed to prefer street-level work to top-down governance?
Habemus Papam.
I believe the line is, "You had me at hello." Barely a moment after the new pope appeared, whatever ecumenical divisions that might have existed in the crowd seemed to go up with the white puffs of smoke. As a non-Catholic, it was impossible for me not to feel the profundity of the moment. A moment awash in firsts. The first Latin American pope, the first Jesuit pope, and the first Pope Francis in honor of St. Francis of Assisi, which went over like a thick, warm blanket on a chilly, rainy night.
It was crazy. Everybody was chanting. Everybody was really excited.
It was just chaos. We came on the metro. You could barely move. Everyone was just running to get in the square. It was like the most exciting thing I've seen in Rome.
A couple of Detroit seminarians were getting a master class in conclave studies, and what better way for priests in training to see the church they wish to serve come so alive, with every corner of St. Peter's packed to the brim. Not that that stopped them.
We were planning our lives around getting over there. I set my umbrella so I could grab it on the run right after evening prayer, right after leaving the chapel. And we ran down there, we pushed our way toward the front, And when the white smoke came, we shut our umbrellas, we ducked under everyone else's umbrella and worked our way. We were literally 3 rows from the front. It was.
Is that priestly behavior?
We didn't push anyone. We just kind of, you know, just worked our way up.
It was such an amazing experience for all of us. All of us gathered together in prayer, in faith, united under our shepherd, who is Pope Francis.
The start of a historic papacy in a number of ways with the ascension of Cardinal Francis, and yet no Detroiter was able to vote on that. Over the last couple of years, Detroiters have had a lot of influence at the Vatican. Cardinal Maida voted in the last conclave, so did Cardinal Sciacca, and in fact Cardinal Sciacca here in Rome rose to almost heroic status for the way that he helped reorganize the Holy See. Cardinal Maida believes it's time for Detroit to have a cardinal again.
I don't know when or how, whatever, but nonetheless, I think the needs and the work that's being done in Detroit is still deserves to have that kind of leadership. And when you're a cardinal, you're not just a cardinal for the city or the state. Remember, when you're a cardinal, you come with certain gifts that are necessary in the mind of the Holy Father in helping him in his service to the whole world.
And that whole world suddenly felt much smaller that night, a night when the old church celebrated a reach into the new world. And the new world felt an emotional and rich welcome centuries in the making.
It is the first time we have a Pope from Latin America, and it's so.
What does that mean to you?
Well, I am Mexican, so for me, that means so. That means so. It's not only the beginning for me of a new era. I don't know if you know the background of this gentleman. I believe that he is going to do really something that we need right now. I mean, he's going to provide us hope in the future, hope in the world needs this guy.